How would you generally describe your political leanings? So as a lot of you already know, I self-identify as a conservative. A lot of this comes from the fact that I think I am just generally a cautious person by temperament, and I'm inclined to think that things are never quite as bad as people make them out to be. I guess I'm sort of broadly anti-government in the sense that I don't really like the idea of government being the dominant force shaping our culture or civilization. And part of this is because I just think it is generally quite difficult for any government to really understand the best interests of the public. But you know, I've really actually tried quite hard to keep a lot of my political views out of my YouTube videos. I have this other life where all I do is write and talk and think about politics, and to be perfectly honest with you, it can be pretty stressful a lot of the time. So I actually quite like the idea that YouTube is something where I can put that side of my life aside and focus on other stuff. But if you guys would actually like more politics, I'd be curious to hear that. Devin Robinson asked, will you ever run for a political office? I have thought about it, but honestly, I do not think I have accomplished enough in my life to be qualified for political office. Note to self, if I do run for political office, delete this video. Octavian Onescu, is that how you say it? This was the name of one of the dictators, wasn't it? Anyway, he asks, how did you discover you were gay? It wasn't actually a very interesting story. It was just sort of something that kind of dawned on me as I got older. At some point, I guess I just learned a clearer definition of what being gay meant, and then I was like, yeah, I guess that's me. Ren Brink asks, what advice would you give to young people like me on how to come out as gay? Also, how do you deal with homophobes? Well, Ren, I think it can be a very difficult thing. I actually made a whole video about this question with my friend Adam. I will link to it in the thing below. I guess the best advice I can give is to just not get too hung up on this idea that there is a right way to do it. There is no magic age where you have to do it, and there is no rule that says you have to come out to everyone at the same time. I came out to different people in my life at very different times. I came out to my sister many years after I came out to my parents. You just have to be able to trust your own instincts to know when is the most appropriate time in each relationship to reveal this kind of information about yourself. I guess I should add one thing though. I do think it is objectively a bad idea to ever use coming out as a sort of weapon against someone else. It should never be something that you yell in anger or something that you use to humiliate or hurt someone. Doing that is how you really poison someone else's opinion of your sexuality, because you've kind of forever tied it up in this very traumatic moment between you two. As far as homophobes go, I guess I am lucky because this has honestly not been a very big problem in my own life. Maybe in high school I got teased a bit, but the way I got over it in those days was to just be very self-confident in other realms of my life. When I was proud of the less controversial things about me, it made me feel less weak. Steve M asks, do you have a boyfriend? No, I do not. Shove Laxnet asks, you really love America. How come you haven't moved to the US? I would gladly take an opportunity to live and work in the US. Don't you think that would be a big honor to be asked to live and work in a different country? But not every foreigner in the world gets to waltz into America just because they feel like it. You have to have a visa, which requires having an American job, and I don't have that. Saudi Bia Mapping Mappers asks, where else have you been in Canada? Not very many places. I have been to British Columbia, obviously, where I live. I have been to Alberta several times. I spent about a week in Quebec. And I've been to Ontario a couple of times. Tiny Play asks, if you could live in any other province or territory in Canada, where would it be? Given my limited exposure, I would probably say Alberta. Mason Jar asks, how many US states have you been to? Okay, let's see. I have been to Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona in the west, Massachusetts, New York, and Pennsylvania in the east, and Texas in the south, and Florida in the Florida. The Norwegian Mapper asks, if you could travel to any country in the world, which country would you like to travel to? Sorry, it's not Norway. At the moment, I'm really fascinated by South Africa. I think I would like to visit Cape Town at some point in the near future. McMaster1471 asks, as a Japanese person, I have a question. How was Japan? I actually did not like my time in Japan, I'm sorry to say. I didn't like the job I was doing, and I didn't like being away from my friends and family. I felt really lonely, and I really felt like I was just wasting my time there. I also found it to be a very difficult culture to feel comfortable in as a foreigner. I didn't like standing out all of the time, and Japan has a lot of very complicated cultural norms that are hard to relate to if you're from the West. James R. Kielizwicki asks, do you think pineapple on pizza is okay? I have always hated it. Daniel Reynolds asks, what is your favorite movie? Well, Daniel, let me tell you a controversial fact about me. I don't really like movies. I think they are very long and boring, and I don't know if this is because I have a short attention span or what, but I've always had a hard time getting into them. So as a result, I have not seen very many movies, and I could not give you a very good answer as to what my favorite would be. It would just be something really stupid and ignorant. Suki Condor asks, what were your favorite shows growing up as a kid, and what what influenced your art style? When I was a kid, I really loved Disney everything, so I watched all the movies and the TV shows. I really liked Darkwing Duck and DuckTales and Goof Troop and that sort of stuff. But I have always loved The Simpsons, and I've always been a big fan of the Nickelodeon stuff as well, like Rugrats and Doug and Ah Real Monsters and Rocko's Modern Life. I think you can see some influence of that stuff in the way that I draw, but a much bigger influence in my art was video games. In particular, I really liked the art in Mario and Zelda and Sonic and sort of Japanese games of that era. And lastly, Jacob Davidson asks, what was your inspiration to become a YouTuber? I would say 4 channels: The Green Brothers, Wheezy Waiter, and noted fellow Canadian Matthew Santoro. Oh boy, so that was a lot of questions. I apologize to anybody whose question I didn't answer. There were just too many to include in one video. There were a lot of questions about Canada in particular. At some point in the future, I will have to do a Canada-only Q&A. But anyway, hopefully learning all this random stuff about me has been interesting. Next week, we will be back with a normal video. Thanks again so much to all my subscribers. Peace.